Hey, Jeremy here from Long Speed Marine. Well, this video is starting off a little bit different than I had originally anticipated, and you'll get to see some of that here in a bit when I actually get into it. This is obviously the end of the video, and I'm doing a new intro because it didn't work out as planned. I had hoped that I was going to be able to go start to finish on getting this car painted, but unfortunately it didn't work out as planned. And I had some issues with the paint, which I've talked to a few people and hopefully got some updates on, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. But basically I will start off and you'll see me go through and get off to a great start on doing the bodywork and that. But basically we just weren't able to follow through with painting it, and it's taken so long to get this video out. Just with life and my personal health and whatnot. So I just wanted to post this out there. So let's get into this video so you can see how badly I messed up on the paint on the Skylark. Let me grab my scuff stuff, and I'm going to start with scuffing all the areas that are just going to be scuffed, and then I'll get into doing the actual body work underneath. And I probably will have to remove this trim. I was hoping I didn't have to, but it looks like I'm going to have to just to get at this spot here in the front fender. So let me get that, and we're going to start scuffing this thing down. All right, so here's what I'm going to be using to scuff it. These are the Scotch-Brite 7447. I found they're fairly decent on Amazon. So they're medium of the road as far as aggressive. And that's what we're going to be using just to scuff this thing down. And like I said, I'm not going crazy with this. We're just gonna, I hate to use the terminology scuff and shoot, but it's basically what we're gonna do for the most part. So there you can see, when you see in the light, I mean, there is still a bit of a sheen to it, but there's going to be, but see how scuffed that is? That you could paint that, and the paint should stick to that. That's pretty much all you need to do, is get a nice dull sheen to it. And that's pretty much ready for paint. So I'm going to carry on doing the rest of this, and I'll check back with you if there's anything to say. But really, what I'm going to do is maybe spend a little bit more time to try and get these. You can see the dirt, right? There's a bunch of dirt and stuff that the last person got in there. So I may take some sandpaper and just work a little bit better in those areas. All you really need to do. So I'm going to carry on doing this, and I'll check back with you in a bit. All right, so here we are on the front fender, and you can see this orange peel, right? So this is just, it's so bad. So I have to use the DA. Because I have to be somewhat more aggressive to get that out. On the top of the fender, it wasn't too bad. But here on the sides, I thought maybe I was going to be able to knock it out, but I can't, so I got to use the DA. I'm going to carry on with the DA. And basically the thing about the DA is you just keep it flat and use it the same way that you would a block. The reason why these cause people trouble is because they'll tip it up on the edge, right? And not get it flat on the panel. So I'm just going to keep going at this and using this flat. I will probably have to, switch to something else to sand in here and get these parts done. But like I say, just as long as you keep this flat, it'll be fine. And then on the bigger parts, I have my bigger DA up there. So it's an 8-inch up there. So I can use that for the hood. This hood's wavy as heck. I think this hood was sandblasted at one point and warped like crazy. So I don't know if I'll do a skim coat of Bondo on it. I don't want to spend that much time. So hopefully I can get as flat as possible with the DA. And then like the hood, I'll use that bigger one for, and the trunk. But on the sides and everything, I'll just use this 6-inch. And I'll have to come back in trying to work these areas out with... to be honest, I might just do it by hand, or maybe I will just use that small little block to get that area. But that's what we're doing. A lot of boring sanding here. But this, hasn't taken me very long at all. I just hit this not even 2 minutes. And I'm sort of done this section for the most part. So it doesn't take very long if you have the right tools. So we'll be back at this in a minute. Okay, here's where we're at. So I've got the roof, this half done, hood's all done, this side of the car is done except for down below that body line because I got to do some body work here. The trunk, other than that side, just got to do a little scuffing along here. But that's where we're at, and I'm going to leave this off for now. I'm going to go blow some leaves, and then we'll get back on this again because I can only do so much. So I'm tired. I'm gonna go strap the backpack blower on and blow some leaves because it's that time of year. Oh, sneezing my head off because of this dust. Okay, so we've got some issues down there, which ideally that bottom piece, that panel should be cut off and then new metal welded in. But holy, pardon me, but I'm not going to do that because I'm just not, and it is what it is. So what's happened here is someone has, I should sand that a bit more, but it'll be okay. So someone's used this body filler to do like actual Bondo, or, you know, basically regular body filler, polyester body filler to fill in some big dents. And this shouldn't have been done this way. They should have used fiberglass filler, because what happens is when water gets in behind this filler, this isn't waterproof, this filler, and it will absorb the water and the rust will keep going. So what's happened is the basically water has gotten in behind here, moisture, and popped this, you know, kept rusting, and then basically the Bondo's no longer adhered to it, and it pops the it pops that out of there. So that's what's happened in all these spots. So what I would have done, had I have been the person that did all this body work, I would have done the fiberglass filler first, like what I'm going to do now, and then you do a skim coat of this Bondo. Because then it would have stuck, and that's waterproof. That fiberglass filler is waterproof. We can use it on boats. I used to use it on boats when I was in that stuff. But it's better direct to metal. Or what I would have done in this situation, and I know that there's a lot of controversy on this, but I would have painted this and then put the actual Bondo on, the body filler on like this. If you want to go that route and you don't want to put the filler in. But basically that's what's happened in all these spots is moisture's gotten behind this body filler and popped it off. So that's why it gets a bad name, because people don't understand it, don't understand how to use it. So what I'm going to use is this short strand fiberglass filler because it is waterproof. And my first layer, I'm going to add some extra fiberglass resin to it. And what that's going to do is make it even harder and basically encapsulate the rust that's there and hopefully stop it. Because this stuff here will encapsulate the rust and pretty well stop it, because it no longer has the air and the moisture in there to create the rust. It's basically sealed it off. So it shouldn't keep rusting. Everybody's going to argue with me and tell me different things, but that's what I'm doing. That's how I do it, especially when I have these situations like this. So let's get to mixing up some of this filler here. You have to bear with me here. I'm sneezing like crazy and whatever from all this dust. I gotta blow my nose. Oh, my ears popped. Fun. All right. Now, put some gloves on. I hate getting this stuff on my hands, even though I always do. So we're going to scoop it out. I've got this plastic board here that I like to mix it on. I've already somewhat mixed it up because it's been sitting for a while, so it's separated a bit. The resin sort of separates out, so you just want to mix that in as good as you can. Otherwise, the bottom part of this is just really dry. And I've got this other resin, so I can mix it in there if it's a bit too dry. That should be, pull out a chunk to start with. Small spreader. Now, depending on how much you're putting on your board and how quickly you want this to dry is how much hardener. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this resin just to soften this up a little bit and let it sort of soak into the crevices where the rust is. Mix this up. Might even mix this a bit thinner. Whoa, that's way too much. Way too much. And it's gonna be like soup. Now it's not even a stick on the pail. Shoot. Alright. I'm just gonna soak some of it up. Take some of it away. Shoot. I'll just add some more of this to there. A little dollop. That. Alright, hopefully it'll be okay and it'll actually stay on the panel. I'll have to do a really thin coat. This is gonna want to run like crazy. Well, I really buggered that up. Now I'm gonna have to mix way too much. And because I'm mixing so much, I'm gonna have to make sure I don't put too much hardener in it. Otherwise, it'll harden up before I even get to the end, and then it's a waste. Alright. Get in there. Alright. So hardener, I usually just like to do a line across the piece, but because I don't want this to harden up too fast, I'm just going to use about that much. And just make sure we got it mixed up good. And we try not to get too many air bubbles in it. It's going to happen regardless. There's not much you can do about that. Oh, look at a mess. Mess, mess, mess. Okay. All right. Now, let's get over to the car. Basically going to want this because it's so runny. So we're just going to do a thin coat. We're not too worried about getting this flat. We're trying to do any of that kind of stuff. You see how runny it is. We just more or less with this coat, I'm just trying to seal this off. So I just care about getting this stuff sealed up to start with. But essentially, even with that much on there, I can come back with regular body filler now, and that shouldn't affect it. Meaning the body filler can go over top of this and it won't be affected if there's moisture behind there, because this is sealing that off. We're sealing off all that rust and potential for moisture to crack our body filler by doing this. Get out of there. Okay. Oh, I wish I hadn't mixed this so runny. Oh. Oh well. Alright, I'm just going to carry on smoothing this out. I think you guys get the idea. And I'll check back with you on the next step. Alright, we're back out here in the shop. This is kind of the boring process. It's like watching someone do wiring. I know you guys don't like sort of watching people do wiring because it's boring. So same thing with this, it's just sanding and stuff. So let me show you what stage we're at and run you through what I'm going to do next. Show you a little bit of that, and then I'm just going to carry on with some of this body work. Last step was getting the fiberglass filler on. So this is a short strand fiberglass. And basically I've put that anywhere that there was a hole. I know, you know, ideally you cut the bottom of that panel out, put it on, but anyways, we're just going to fill it with fiberglass filler. It'll last a while. And then anywhere it was pretty deep down to metal, we've put the fiberglass filler. So that's what we've done. We've got that on. It's all nice and hard now. So I'm just going to go and do a rough sand to get all these high edges down. And then now is when we will use our polyester or Bondo, if you will, filler over top of that. All right, I just thought I'd talk quickly about the tools I'm going to use for this. So there's two types of DAs. Where's my other one? Two types of pads, really. One type is this, which is basically your flat pad, which is meant for paper that sticks on. And then your other one is hook and loop, which is basically Velcro. The Velcro type, from most people's opinion, is that it adds an extra cushion. So there's the potential to get more waves in the paint. Whereas with your flat one that sticks on, it's a harder surface, harder sanding, so you get less waves in the paint. So anyways, I'm going to be using this, and really not for any other reason than I'm running out of my hook and loop sandpaper, and I've got lots of the stick-on sandpaper. So I'm switching to this DA for that. And then I've never used this. I've got this from a friend, and I've never tried one of these. And I'm going to try it basically in this spot here on the door. This obviously my flat board won't work for back here, so I may use another board, or I'll just use the DA and just keep in mind of where that peak should be. But here on the door, I'm going to try this. Again, I've never tried one of these, so I don't know how this is going to work. This on here, I don't know what this is. This is like 60 grit or something. This is some pretty serious sandpaper. Oh, 40. Holy moly. So I'm going to use, what do I have? What is this? 220. I'm going to use a 220 on that. And we're going to try this out. So this is going to be the first thing I'm going to try is this tool. So we're going to see how these work, and I'll let you know if you should bother spending the money on it or not. Oh, what is in that? I hope that's not through the whole thing. Looks like we've got some contamination in that piece, which I don't want. Let's try this again. All right, a little loose. Stay. Let's try this out. Oh, that's the wrong Dewey. Oh, yes. Okay. Works all right. I probably could use a rougher sandpaper though to go faster at this. Probably go to an 80 grit, and we'll get through these high spots faster. All right, it's time to use our filler now. I've got all this rough sanded down. You can see I've got obviously a bunch of low spots. I'll fill in there with the filler. Same over there, all around. So I'm just gonna go over this with filler. And this is the stuff that I'm using just cause. It's decent stuff, works pretty good. I don't know, I haven't found differences in some of them, but anyways, I like this one, so this is what I'm using. Just gonna take some of this, stir it up a little bit. You can see it is what it is. So, it's not too bad. Some of that resin in this has sunk to the bottom, so I just want to make sure that we stir it up and it's not too thick. And you can add that fiberglass to this to make it a little bit thinner, but I don't think I'm going to. I found when I did that, it made it pretty hard to sand. So I'm just gonna take a bunch of this out. And I'm gonna try not to do too much at a time because I don't want it to harden on my board. Hope you guys can see what's going on here. I'm sure you can. All right. So with this, sort of similar, just sort of take a line and do about that much. Again, I don't want this to harden up too fast. So I'm going to use my small one to mix it, but when I'm putting it on, I'm going to use actually my bigger spreader. Because I want to get this quite smooth, cover a large area so I don't have to, I'm hoping to get this on there nicely so I don't have to do a ton of sanding. And just do a quick sand. And you want to try not to get a whole ton of air bubbles in this and yada yada yada. You can see there's bubbles in there. Again, someone will say that's not how you're supposed to mix it. You're supposed to do it this way or that way or another way. I don't know. That's just how I do it. Alright, so that's pretty well mixed. You want to mix it so obviously you don't see a bunch of blue streaks in it. So I'm going to use my bigger one. And of course my arthritis is acting up on me, so I can hardly hold anything with my hand. Then we're going to go to the car and start spreading this out. Now we're just going to start spreading this out over our area. Nice big swath, try not to slop it all over the place like I always do. Covering, obviously want to make sure we get our low spots really well. Right there. And I'm trying to do this in a way so that I'll leave that peak of the door nice. Spread this all over here. Smooth it down again. I'm trying to hope that I don't have to do a bunch of sanding with this, but I probably will. Again, I want to leave that peak in the door, and I've got a bunch of junk in this, unfortunately, from that fiberglass stuff. Alright, so that's basically all we're going to do. Now you can see this is starting to harden up on me already. So once it starts to get hard, there's a point where you're going to want to screw with it and mess around, and then you get stuff like that. And then you get mad that you just put huge lines in your nicely spreaded body filler. So there's going to come a point where stop screwing with it. And I'm at that point now. But now I got to fix my screw ups. There. I'm done. I'm not going to touch it anymore. Now I want to get this top part smoother. Okay. Now I'm done. I got junk in there. Shoot. Look at all that crap. I should have cleaned my stuff off better. Or used a new thing. That's basically it. So I'm going to go around the car now and do that, let that dry, and do some more sanding. Fun times. Okay, we're back at it. I had to kick on the heat. It's gotten chilly here. I think it was 0 overnight, which is 32. Anyways, we're back at it. And hopefully I can get this filler sanded off. Yesterday I just took all had in me just to finish doing the filler, so hopefully we'll get a couple hours in today to be able to do the sanding of that, and then maybe get some primer on, and then we'll go from there. So let me show you what it looks like now. All right, so we've got our filler on. Hopefully this is the last and only coat of this stuff. This side, like I said a few times, this side is the worst side of the car. It's had a lot more issues to it, so this side will take a lot more sanding. So I'm going to get at sanding this. I'll show you a little bit of that. But basically it's going to be a DA sanding block. I don't know if I'll use that thing. The air one, maybe I'll use it a little bit, see how it goes, but mostly the DA and a foam sanding block. And let me show you where that is. I don't know where it is. I was using it yesterday, so I've put it somewhere. Where is it? I don't know. I was just using it yesterday. Gosh darned it. Where'd it go? Oh, maybe I kicked it under the car. That's good. Keep stepping on that trim. Good job. Maybe I shouldn't have left it there. Sanding block, sanding block. I don't know. There it is. Okay, so this is just a foam sanding block. So I'm gonna start on this side and I'll show you some of that, just what I'm doing, and we'll go from there. What do I want? This. Okay. So, got my sanding block here. I think this has 80 grit. So I'm gonna use 80 grit just to knock this down quickly. And then I'll switch to like 180, 240, and we'll see how that goes. And maybe that's it. I might not need to go any finer than that. So we'll just see how this starts off. All right, well that sucks. It always sucks, but it really sucks with what I've got going on my shoulders and my neck. So I'm gonna have to use more power tools here. So I'm gonna switch to the DA to knock this down quickly, and then we'll use that. Maybe I'll try my flat one again. All right, I'm gonna try this one again. This is flatter. Then I talked about that. Then the one with the hook and loop. I don't really like this one because it seems to bog down for some reason. Something must be wrong with this. I don't know if it's all gummed up inside it. We're gonna try it here. This has got, what's on this? 180. See what this looks like. See, I can't even keep this one going for some reason. Ow! See, I don't even know what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, this sucks. This is going to make a mess. All right, so I'm not going to use this one. Oh, this sucks. All right, I'm going to try my big 8-inch. See what that does on here. All right, I didn't really like my results with that, so I'm going to go to this one. I feel most comfortable with this palm sander 6-inch DA. So we're just going to see what this does here. Just to knock this down a bit quicker. All right, so our next layer of filler, Bondo, whatever, is hard. I always like to make sure this stuff is really hard. Now, this has been, truth be told, this is a few days later because I just wasn't able to get out in the shop. I wasn't feeling well, had some other stuff to take care of. Had to winterize the boat, do that kind of stuff. So it's really hard, which is good. I still have a low spot here around this handle. Where there's quite a bit of Bondo, but in this door looks like it had been crashed at some point and they just popped it out, I guess, as best they could and put a ton of filler in it. So all around that handle, there's a ton of filler. And I'm not going to bother with it. This is one of those projects where, you know, you really can, it's going to snowball. And I don't want it to do that. I mean, I want the car to look decent, which it will, but I don't want to go crazy on this, because then you're just spending a ton of time and hours. So I'm sort of running out of my time frame that I wanted to get this done. I was hoping that it would have been painted a week ago. I'm going to get back to sanding all this stuff here. And then the next step, which is also kind of boring, but I will show you my tips, some of those tips on. The next step will be masking the car off. Well, I'll blow it off, clean it off as best I can, and then mask the car. Okay. That's going to be my next step after this, because then what I want to do is put some primer down on all these spots where the filler is. So I got to start with my masking process once I'm done sanding this off. So I'll check back in with you in a little bit. Okay, here's where we're at. Quite a few days later. We're getting there slowly, you know, I've got other stuff unfortunately going on. And between me needing rest and whatnot. So starting to mask it off finally. All the body work is done for the most part. Now what I have to do is mask it off so I can spray primer over all these bodywork spots. And then we can sort of go over the car, and I know there's a little chip up here that I want to use spot putty on, and then any sort of pinholes that we see. I'm not going to worry about too much below the body line, because your eye doesn't really see that. So anything that I'm going to use the spot putty on or really worry about is going to be up top, and I'm still not going to be overly worried about it. I know there's a chip here. This will bug me, so I'm going to do some spot putty on that. And that's about it. Again, I'm going to stay below that sort of body line and down, because you can't, you know, your eye doesn't really see it when you're looking at the car. The hood is what it is. I've explained before that it's a bit wavy. Maybe I got some of it out with sanding it like this, but I doubt it. All right, pop this hood. So you can see this whole area up here and even around the sides. Maybe I can show you if I bring you in here. So the last person that painted this didn't really mask this off. So I'm not going to worry about this too much, but I am going to worry about all up across there. So what I'm going to do is take this stuff, and this, you know, you can use newspapers, that kind of stuff, but if you go to your body shop supply, this body shop type masking stuff is not very expensive. And I've had this roll for quite a long time and done a few different projects with it, and I've still got quite a bit. So it's, like I say, it's fairly cheap, it's affordable, and it's going to work better than your newspapers, because your newspapers can bleed through where this is waxy. So it's this side out that you put out, the side with the writing. The other side is not as waxed. You can feel it. This side's shiny and this side's dull. So this is the side that you want out, that the paint's going to hit, and the paint won't bleed through. I mean, it says it right on here, water resistant, bleed resistant. Whereas your newspapers and stuff like that, your paint can bleed through if you get a bunch of it on there. So that's what we want to avoid here. So I'm just going to roll this out. Basically the width of what we need, which would be the width of this engine bay here. And I should have had a knife or something, but I don't. Well, I'm just gonna, well, we'll just rip it. Seriously, it should work. Good enough. All right, I'm gonna pull off my squirters. Come on, get off of there. Got it. Okay. So I can close this hood. And now we're masked off under there. So now when we mask the windshield, we'll worry about getting our paper down past all this stuff over top of this, but I will just mask this off anyways. You'd be surprised how paint, when you're spraying it through a gun, I mean even a spray gun, but really in a gun because it's a bit higher pressure, can work its way in somewhere that you didn't think. All right, we are back on the Skylark, and truth be told, I'm riding the struggle bus today. So I just scuffed down the car, so I got it primed, masked off, shot some primer over top of the areas with filler, and so I scuffed that up. And what I used to scuff that up is my Scotch-Brite pad, or in other words, a scuff pad. And that's good enough for any of the spots that, you know, I just shot over bare metal, where I went through sanding, or any of the areas that look good once they were primed, because there are a few areas that don't look good. And primarily in the area of the body line on the door. All right, so I don't know if this shows up, maybe if I put the camera like this, but just wipe it down a bit. Well, you can see sort of in it, but see how it's, yeah, you can see it. So that's what I'm dealing with here. The body line is, I actually got up above here I need to sand off. So I want to crispen that up a bit. Or honestly flatten it down, one or the other. You can try and crispen it up, or I can try and flatten it back, round it off more, because frankly, that one at the back is supposed to be peaked, but of course over the years with all the repairs and stuff, it's just basically round. So it wouldn't change much if I sort of rounded this one off. Obviously I gotta be, you know, make sure that it follows there, but I can really taper this down. I was trying to bring it back, but maybe that was a bad idea and caused me a bit of issues now. So I'm going to try and straighten that up with the long block. So let me get you set up here and let's see what this block looks like. If this is too long or the wrong contour. No, that's going to work. That's actually going to be perfect. Right? Yeah, because that sort of bows out, which is fine. So that'll help me. Really, I just care about sanding right here. And even, I don't even care about going back that far. That's why I said I might cut this down. All right, so here's one of the thicker blocks, and I decided to cut this one down. So that'll work good. That'll work good for me to be able to do that. And what else I did is I left one edge hard and one edge just rounded a little bit, so that'll be my leading edge when I'm doing this, just so you don't gouge the edge, and I keep the other edge flat as possible. So I'm going to put some 400 grit on this and just get to work here. All right, I got my 400 grit on here. Just going to start going to town on this. Oops. Oh, there. So you can really see as I start sanding this, and of course it's going up the paper too. See, this is why I hate using a block. I've gummed up the paper and now it's gouged into my primer. This is why I hate using a block, because this is what happens when things aren't perfect when you're using a block. I mean, you can clearly see where I've sort of messed up this edge, but now I'm gonna have to do so much work to get all these gouges out. All right, let's see what 220 does to this. Probably the same thing. It's working a little better. You can definitely see, obviously, how much flatter I'm getting this. But, yeah, see? It's still gumming up the paper. Ah, I hate that. And this is where you run into, okay, how far do I want to go with this? And I'm just going to really try and work on this area so I can get this just straightened out a little bit or rounded off or whatever I got to do here. Try and get this body line worked in a little better. All right, DA 240, and we're gonna be done. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I gotta do the other side, and we're ready to move on. All right, so I've blown the car off, did the other side, and I've blown the car off. Now it's a bit dusty in here, so I'm just waiting for the dust to settle. Take a bit of a breather, maybe get a drink, stay hydrated, and then the next step, gonna let this dust settle a bit. I gotta wipe the car down a couple times. This is the biggest step. Is you want to get a decent wax and grease remover, and then after I wipe it down, I might blow it off again. I'm going to wipe it down 2 times for sure, and then tack cloth it. So I'm going to take a breather, let the dust settle, and then I'm going to wipe the car down. Oh, I got to put plastic over the tires. Anyways, yeah. Another thing you want to make sure you do is empty your compressor, especially after doing all that sanding and stuff that I've been doing. There's going to be a ton of water in this thing. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to empty off this. I can actually see, I was sitting here and I could hear something bubbling a little bit. And there's even water. I don't know if you can see that. See those bubbles? So look at how much water's in that. So we got to try and get rid of that before we start spraying. It'll just help a little bit. So I'm going to do that now, drain this compressor. It's going to make a mess. It's going to be noisy. But yeah, make sure you drain your compressor. totally messed up. Basically, I've talked to a few people on this, and I'm going to show you. Yes, I got runs, but I got a lot of these fisheyes, and that's really the issue, more so than the runs. I said to myself, what I should have done to start off with, the first thing I should have done when I started painting is I should have gone over all of the primered spots and bare bodywork first. Should have gone over that, basically done a light coat on those where all that primer stuff was, and then started doing a very light coat on the rest of the car. And that could have eliminated a lot of stuff here. Hammering the paint on like I did caused a lot of these, but I don't know. See that line? Right? And a lot of these other weird sort of paint issues. So I think what I did was too much flow on the paint, and maybe I was a bit close. Now, one of the other problems that I have, if you can see, is I have a lot of the sand scratches come through, that I thought I was going to be okay, but I'm not. Same thing up here on the roof. So I should have gone I should have followed all this stuff up, with another coat. Yeah, see, this is a day later, and it's really tacky still. So what I'm gonna have to do here is sand a lot of this stuff, wait for it to really cure, sand a lot of this stuff, scuff the rest of it, and basically start over. Thankfully, I've got about half a gallon left. The other thing that I might have done, which someone suggested, is maybe too much reducer, which was that can. But that, I don't think I did. If anything, I don't think I reduced it enough. So that's what we're going to have to do. And then I've got all these runs in here, which basically happened from me just getting too excited and putting too much color on. So it's a bit of a bummer that this happened, but you can see some weird stuff here. Like even this, like that shouldn't have been a run because I didn't put too much there. Around you see that? So we're going to try and figure that out. I don't know if maybe I didn't wait long enough for the grease and wax remover to fully dry and dissipate. But look at all these big, huge fisheye spots back here. Again, I can explain the runs. I can explain the sand scratches that you can still see, but that stuff doesn't make sense. So anyways, we'll sort of have to start over again and hopefully correct all this and not screw up the next time. See, even on the roof, it's got this weird splotchiness to it, which sucks. But anyways, we will continue on and hopefully get this corrected in the next video, which will come out here not too long after this one. Well, there we are. Like I said, here's the ending of this video. Thanks for sticking through this stuff. And I've got to get this car done because I've got to sell it, hopefully to recoup some money, so I can figure out what my next steps are here because I've quit my day job. So anyways, we will tackle this. Thanks for tagging along on this. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot more regular videos from this point forward. So we'll be trying to do one every week, if not every 2 weeks. But we're going to do a lot more videos going forward here. So you're going to see a lot of that. And let me know in the comments down below. Do you like the longer videos? Or do you like shorter videos? You tell me so I can sort of cater them to what you guys like to view. I see a lot of the other creators out there and people seem to like to watch the longer videos. So I have no problem doing that. Anyways, thanks for tagging along. Hope you enjoyed it. And just remember, failure's not an option. Just got to keep going on these projects.